She thought it was just a ring, but one sentence from a waitress made a billionaire confront a past he buried, and a daughter he never knew existed. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Ms. Love Stories channel, the place where love, drama, and unforgettable moments come alive. I'm so thrilled you're here, ready to dive into stories that will make your heart race, bring tears, and leave you believing in the power of love. Before we begin, I want to get to know all of you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because in the next video, I'll give a special shout out to some of you amazing viewers from around the world. I can't wait to see how far our love story family reaches. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a single emotional journey. Get ready to feel, laugh, cry, and fall in love all over again, because every story we share here is for you. Now, the story begins. Rose. Before we begin, imagine discovering your entire life is built on a secret someone else kept from you. Backhand index pointing right. Tell me in the comments. Would you want to know the truth, even if it could break you? The city of Lagos glittered beneath the glass walls of the penthouse office. But inside, there was no warmth. Peter stood still, staring at the skyline like a man searching for something that wasn't there. His reflection stared back at him. Sharp suit, expensive watch, and that same expression he wore every day. Controlled, distant, unreachable. Behind him, his assistant's voice cut through the silence. "Sir, your 2 p.m. investors are waiting." Peter didn't turn. "They can wait another 5 minutes. They've already been waiting 20. A pause. Then quietly, "Make it 30. His assistant hesitated, then nodded and left. Silence returned. Peter's fingers slowly brushed against the ring on his right hand. A simple silver band, worn but polished. It didn't match the rest of him. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't impressive. But it was the only thing he never took off. Not even once. Not in 23 years. His jaw tightened slightly as his thumb traced its edge. A memory flickered, but he crushed it before it could form. "Not now," he muttered. For Peter, emotions were distractions. And distractions were dangerous. He turned sharply, grabbed his coat, and walked out. Not toward the meeting room, but toward the elevator. "Table 5 needs water." "Coming." Rachel moved quickly between tables, balancing 3 plates on one arm, her ponytail swaying with every step. The restaurant buzzed with life, laughter, clinking glasses, conversations overlapping like music. And in the middle of it all, she smiled. Not because life was easy, but because she refused to let it break her. "Rachel," her coworker whispered urgently, "that guy at table 3 keeps staring at you." She laughed lightly. "Maybe I remind him of someone who owes him money. Or someone he wants to marry." "Please," she rolled her eyes. "If he wants marriage, he should start by tipping better." They both laughed. But as Rachel turned away, her smile softened, just a little. Because behind her humor, there was always a quiet question. A missing piece. Her mother never talked about her father. Not once. No pictures. No stories. Just silence. And over time, Rachel stopped asking. But sometimes, late at night, she wondered, who was he? Did he ever think about me? She shook the thought away as she approached table 7. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get for you?" The restaurant door opened quietly. No one noticed at first. Except the manager, who immediately straightened his posture. Because men like Peter didn't walk into places like this. Not without a reason. And certainly not alone. Peter stepped inside, his presence subtle, but commanding. His eyes scanned the room briefly. Not with interest. Not with curiosity. Just habit. Like a man used to assessing environments, not enjoying them. He chose a seat near the corner. Away from attention. Away from noise. "Sir, welcome." The manager began nervously. "I'll just have coffee." "Of course, sir. Right away." As the manager rushed off, Peter leaned back slightly, loosening his tie. For the first time that day, he exhaled. "Table 9 coffee," the manager told Rachel. She grabbed the cup without hesitation. "On it." As she walked toward the table, she didn't look at the man sitting there. Not yet. Just another customer. Just another order. But as she placed the cup down gently, Your coffee, sir. Peter looked up. And for a brief second, something shifted. Not recognition. Not yet. But something unfamiliar. Rachel felt it too. A strange pause. Like the world had taken a breath. She glanced at him properly this time. And her eyes, just for a moment, lingered. Not on his face. Not on his suit. But on his hand. On the ring. Her brows furrowed slightly. A flicker of confusion. Then curiosity. Then something deeper. But she said nothing. Just smiled politely. Let me know if you need anything else. She turned to leave. But slowed. Just a little. Her mind catching on to something she couldn't quite place. Peter, meanwhile, picked up the cup. But didn't drink. His gaze followed her for a second longer than necessary. Then he looked down at his hand. At the ring. And for the first time in years, a thought slipped through his defenses. Why did she look at it like that? Across the room, Rachel paused near the counter, glancing back again. Her heart beat just a little faster. Not from attraction. Not from fear. But from something she couldn't explain. Something familiar. In a stranger. And as Peter sat there, unknowingly on the edge of a truth that would change everything, neither of them realized that one sentence was about to rewrite both their lives. The restaurant noise didn't fade all at once. It unraveled slowly, like a thread being pulled from fabric. Clinking glasses. Soft laughter. A chair scraping faintly across the floor. All of it still existed. But for Peter, it was distant now. Muted. Because something was about to happen. Rachel stood at the counter, staring absent-mindedly at the tray in front of her. Her coworker nudged her lightly. You're zoning out again. I'm not, she replied quickly, but her eyes drifted back toward table 9. Toward him. Toward the man with the ring. I've seen that ring before, she whispered under her breath. What? Nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was a feeling. A memory that didn't belong to her. But felt like it did. She picked up a small jug of water. I'll refill his glass, she said, more to herself than anyone else. Each step toward Peter felt heavier than it should have. Not physically. Emotionally. Like she was walking into something she didn't understand. Something she couldn't stop. Peter didn't notice her at first. He was staring at the city again through the glass window beside him, his reflection faintly staring back. Lost. But not peaceful. Never peaceful. Excuse me, sir. Her voice was soft. Gentle. But it pulled him back instantly. He turned slightly. And there she was again. Closer this time. Close enough to notice the small details. The way her fingers trembled slightly as she held the jug. The way her eyes didn't fully meet his. The way something unspoken hung between them. Yes, he said calmly. Your water. She reached forward to pour. And that's when it happened. The light caught the ring. Just for a second. But it was enough. Rachel froze mid-motion. Her breath caught. Her eyes locked onto it. Not casually. Not curiously. But intensely. Like she had just seen a ghost. Peter noticed. Of course he did. He noticed everything. His hand stilled. Is something wrong? He asked, his voice low, controlled. Rachel didn't answer immediately. Because her mind was racing. Flashes. Fragments. Her mother's voice. A memory from years ago. This ring, it's the only thing I have left of him. Her heart started pounding. Loud. Too loud. Before she could stop herself. Before she could think. She spoke. Sir. Her voice trembled slightly now. My mum. A pause. A breath. Has a ring just like yours. It wasn't dramatic. There was no loud gasp. No music swelling in the background. Just silence. But it was the kind of silence that crushes. Peter didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. For a full 3 seconds. Then slowly. Very slowly. His fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Not visibly to anyone else. But enough for him to feel it. Enough to ground himself. Because inside, everything had just come undone. No. The word echoed in his mind. That's not possible. His eyes dropped to the ring. The same ring he had given away once. The same ring he thought was gone forever. The same ring tied to a past he had buried so deep. He convinced himself it never existed. His throat tightened. But his face? Still calm. Still controlled. Years of discipline didn't break easily. Many rings look alike, he said evenly. Too evenly. Too fast. But Rachel didn't look convinced. No, she shook her head softly. It's not just alike. Her voice was quieter now. More certain. I've seen it up close. The pattern, the small scratch on the side. Her finger hovered slightly in the air, afraid to point, but unable to ignore it. It's the same. Peter's chest tightened. That scratch. He remembered it. He had made it himself years ago, by accident. There was no way she could know that. Unless. Peter leaned back slowly, studying her now, not as a waitress, not as a stranger, but as a possibility. His gaze sharpened. What's your name? He asked. The question landed heavier than expected. Rachel. The name hit him like a quiet explosion, but he didn't react outwardly. Not yet. Just a flicker in his eyes. Gone in an instant. And your mother? He asked. Rachel hesitated. Why did that feel important? Why did it feel like the answer mattered more than it should? Her name is Rachel. The manager's voice cut in sharply from across the room. Table 4 needs you. Now. The moment broke. Just like that. Snapped in half. Rachel turned quickly. Sorry, sir. Go. Peter said quietly. Not dismissive. Not annoyed. Just distant. She nodded and stepped away, but her mind wasn't on table 4. Not anymore. As she walked, she glanced back. And saw him. Still staring at the ring. Like it had just betrayed him. The coffee sat untouched. Cold now. Forgotten. Peter's hand slowly clenched into a fist. Then released. Then clenched again. His breathing was controlled, but heavier. His mind racing. Rachel. The name repeated itself. Again. And again. And again. No, it can't be. But something deep inside him whispered. What if it is? Across the room. Rachel stood frozen for just a second longer than she should have. Her heart still racing. Her thoughts tangled. Because somehow, a stranger's ring had just made her feel closer to the truth than she had her entire life. At this point, everything feels like a coincidence. But is it really? Backhand index pointing right. Tell me honestly. Do you think this is fate? Or just a dangerous misunderstanding? The moment should have ended there. A strange comment. An awkward silence. Two people returning to their separate lives. That's how it should have been. But some moments don't fade. They linger. They follow you. They demand answers. Peter didn't stay. He couldn't. The moment Rachel disappeared into the crowd of tables, he stood up abruptly. Too abruptly. His chair scraped loudly against the floor, drawing a few curious glances. He didn't care. Sir, your bill. The manager rushed over. Charge it, Peter said coldly, already pulling out his phone. I have a meeting. But he didn't. Not anymore. Because right now, nothing mattered except one thing. That ring. That name. That girl. The car door slammed shut behind him. Silence. Then. Drive, he ordered. To the office, sir? A pause. His jaw tightened. No. Another pause. Just drive. As the car pulled into traffic, Peter leaned back, his hand immediately going to the ring. His thumb traced the familiar edge again and again. Faster this time. Restless. Unsettled. This is ridiculous, he muttered. Coincidences happen. His voice was calm. But his thoughts weren't. The scratch. The pattern. The name. No, he said more firmly this time. She's just a waitress. The words came out harsher than he intended, as if saying them stronger would make them true. But deep down, something had already shifted. Flashback. A younger version of himself. Rain pouring. A woman standing in front of him. Eyes filled with something between love and heartbreak. Keep it, she had said, placing the ring back into his hand. I don't want something that reminds me of what you chose over me. He had tried to speak, but pride had been louder. Always louder. And just like that, she was gone. Peter's eyes snapped open. He exhaled sharply. Stop, he whispered to himself. That was years ago. She moved on. She had to. His hand dropped from the ring. But the feeling didn't leave. It only grew heavier. Back at the restaurant, Rachel nearly dropped a plate. Careful. Her coworker laughed lightly. You're really not here today. I'm fine, she said quickly. But she wasn't. Not even close. Her mind kept replaying it. That moment. That ring. That man. And the way he reacted. It wasn't normal. It wasn't casual. It wasn't someone hearing something random. It was fear. She had seen it. Even if he tried to hide it. You know, her coworker said, leaning closer. That guy, he looked important. Rachel shrugged. I didn't notice. Please. Everyone noticed. Even the manager was sweating. Rachel forced a small smile. But inside, her thoughts whispered. Why did he ask my name? Why did it matter? Later that evening, she walked home slowly. The streets quieter now. The noise of the day fading into distant echoes. But her thoughts? Louder than ever. The apartment door creaked softly as she stepped inside. Mom, she called gently. In the kitchen. Rachel walked in, dropping her bag by the chair. Her mother stood by the stove, stirring quietly. Same as always. Simple. Calm. Familiar. Safe. But tonight, something felt different. How was work? Her mother asked without turning. Busy. A pause. Rachel hesitated. Then, Mom. Her mother glanced over slightly. Yes. Rachel swallowed. Her heart suddenly racing again. I saw something today. Her mother turned fully now. Concern flickering in her eyes. What is it? Rachel stepped closer. Slowly. Carefully. Your ring. Her mother froze. Just slightly. Barely noticeable. But enough. Rachel saw it. What about it? Her mother asked calmly. Too calmly. I saw someone with the exact same one. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then a soft laugh. That's not possible. It is, Rachel insisted quietly. I noticed the scratch, the detail on the inside. Her mother turned away. Back to the stove. Stirring again. But her hand wasn't steady anymore. Lots of rings look similar, she said. Same words. Different voice. But the same avoidance. Rachel's chest tightened. Mom. A pause. Then softly. Who gave you that ring? The spoon stopped moving. Just for a second. Then resumed. Slower this time. More controlled. That's not important, her mother said. It is to me. Her voice wasn't loud. But it was firm. And that alone was unusual. Her mother turned. And for the first time, there was something else in her eyes. Not just calm. Not just distance. But fear. I said it's not important, she repeated more firmly now. Rachel stepped back slightly. Surprised. Hurt. Why won't you ever tell me? She asked softly. About him. The word hung in the air. Heavy. Unavoidable. Her mother's expression hardened. Because it doesn't matter. It matters to me. Silence. Then. He made his choice a long time ago. The words came out sharper than expected. Carrying years of something buried. Something unresolved. Rachel felt it. That truth. That pain. And suddenly, the man in the restaurant didn't feel like a stranger anymore. Miles away, Peter stood alone in his office. The city lights now glowing against the dark sky. His assistant knocked gently. Sir? Your meeting. Cancel it. Again. Yes. A pause. Then. Sir, is everything all right? Peter didn't answer. Because the truth was, for the first time in years, it wasn't. He picked up his phone. Scrolled through contacts. Stopped. Hesitated. Then locked the screen. No, he muttered. This is nothing. But his hand trembled slightly as he set the phone down. Across the city, Rachel sat quietly on her bed. Her mother's words echoing in her mind. He made his choice. Her fingers slowly reached for something on her nightstand. A small box. She opened it carefully. Inside. The ring. Her mother's ring. She stared at it. Then whispered softly. Who are you? 2 people. 2 rings. 1 truth. And both of them trying desperately not to see it. Some connections don't ask for permission. They don't wait for readiness. They don't care about denial. They simply pull. The next morning, Peter didn't go to the office. That alone was enough to alarm everyone. His assistant called twice, 3 times, 4, 5. No answer. Because Peter was already dressed, already in his car, parked across the street from the same restaurant. He sat there in silence, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching, waiting, arguing with himself. This is unnecessary. You're chasing shadows. She's just a girl with a similar story. But then, the scratch, the name, the way she looked at him. His jaw tightened. This ends today, he muttered, not knowing whether he meant the curiosity or the past. Inside the restaurant, Rachel tied her apron slowly, her movements distracted, her mind elsewhere. Earth to Rachel, her coworker waved a hand in front of her face. You're doing it again. Doing what? That thing where you look like you're solving a mystery no one else knows about. Rachel gave a faint smile. Maybe I am. Does it involve tall, rich, mysterious customers? Her coworker teased. Rachel rolled her eyes, but didn't answer, because somehow, it did. She picked up her tray and turned toward the dining area, and froze. He was back. Same table, same calm posture, same unreadable expression. But this time, there was no coincidence. Rachel's heartbeat picked up instantly. Not fear, not excitement, but something deeper, something pulling her forward. Peter looked up. Their eyes met, and this time, neither of them looked away quickly. The manager rushed over again, overly polite. Sir, welcome back. I'll have coffee. Of course, sir. But Peter's gaze never left Rachel, not even for a second. Rachel, the manager called. Her name felt louder today, heavier. Table 9. Every step toward him felt like stepping deeper into something unknown. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Good morning, sir, she said, her voice steady but softer than usual. Rachel, Peter replied. Her name on his lips caught her off guard. You remembered, she said quietly. I remember things that matter. The words lingered, unsettling. She placed the coffee down carefully, trying not to look at the ring, but failing. Peter noticed. Of course he did. He slowly lifted his hand, intentionally this time. Not to drink, not to gesture, but to let her see it. If you're going to look at it, he said calmly, you might as well ask. Rachel hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly around the tray. I didn't mean to stare. But you did. A pause. Then softer. And you weren't wrong to. Rachel swallowed, her guard slipping just slightly. It's just, I've never seen another one like it. Peter leaned back, studying her again. Where did your mother get hers? The question was direct. Too direct. But not aggressive. More like, careful. Rachel hesitated. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. It's not important. But it felt important now. More than ever. I don't know, she admitted. She never told me. Peter's gaze didn't change. But something behind it did. A flicker. A calculation. A memory fighting its way back. And you never asked, he pressed. I did. A small bitter smile. She just never answered. Silence stretched between them. But it wasn't empty. It was full. Of questions. Of tension. Of something neither of them wanted to name yet. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then. Darkness. A few customers gasped. Someone laughed nervously. What's happening? Power outage? Another voice called. The backup generator didn't kick in immediately. The restaurant was thrown into a strange, quiet dimness. Only faint daylight filtering through the windows. Rachel instinctively stepped back, but bumped lightly into the edge of Peter's table. He reached out quickly, steadying her, his hand brushing her arm. And for a second, everything stopped again. Careful, he said softly. His voice different now, less controlled, more human. Rachel looked down at where his hand touched her arm, then back up at him. Their faces closer now. Too close for strangers. "Thank you," she whispered. But neither of them moved away immediately. Outside, the city noise continued. Inside, time felt slower, thicker. "It's strange," Rachel said suddenly. "What is this?" She gestured slightly between them. "This feeling." Peter's eyes narrowed slightly. "What feeling?" She hesitated. Then, "Like I know you." The words hung in the air. Dangerous. Unavoidable. Peter's breath caught. Just slightly. But enough. "You don't," he said quickly. Too quickly. But Rachel didn't look convinced. "Maybe not," she said softly. "But it feels like I should." That was it. That was the moment something inside him cracked. Not fully, but enough to let the truth breathe. "Rachel," he said, his voice lower now. More serious. "Your mother." A pause. "What's her name?" Before she could answer, the lights came back on. Suddenly. Harshly. Breaking the moment. Voices returned. Noise rushed back in. The spell shattered. Rachel blinked, stepping back quickly. Like she had just woken up. I should get back to work." Peter didn't stop her this time. Didn't reach for her. Didn't push further. But his eyes followed her. More intensely than before. As Rachel walked away, her heart pounded harder than ever. Because now, it wasn't just curiosity. It wasn't just coincidence. It was something else. Something deeper. Something undeniable. And Peter sat there, staring at the space she left behind. His mind no longer denying it. No longer avoiding it. Because now, he needed answers. No matter the cost. Some truths don't arrive gently. They don't knock. They don't wait to be invited in. They crash through the door. And once they do, nothing stays the same. Peter didn't leave immediately this time. He stayed seated long after the lights came back. Long after his coffee had gone cold again. Long after Rachel disappeared into the rhythm of the restaurant. But his mind was nowhere in that room. He pulled out his phone. Scrolled. Paused. Then dialed. "Daniel," he said when the line connected. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. Sharp. Focused. "I need you to look into someone." A pause on the other end. "Of course, sir." "Ooh." Peter's eyes lifted slowly, finding Rachel across the room, laughing faintly with a customer. Like nothing had happened. Like everything hadn't changed. "Her name is Rachel," he said quietly. "She works here." "Last name?" "I don't know." "A beat. That's what you're going to find out." "And anything else, sir?" Peter hesitated. For the first time. Uncertainty. Then. "Her mother." Another pause. "What about her?" Peter's fingers tightened slightly around the phone. "I want to know everything." That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. Again. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. The room quiet. But her thoughts. Loud. Restless. Unforgiving. She turned to the side and reached for the small box again. Opened it. And there it was. The ring. Her fingers traced its surface slowly. Carefully. As if touching it might unlock something. A memory. A truth. He made his choice. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind again. "What choice?" she whispered softly. "To leave? To forget? To never come back?" Her chest tightened. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about identity. About absence. About a piece of her life that had always been missing. And now, it felt closer than ever. Rachel stepped into the kitchen the next morning. Her mother was already there. As usual. Making tea. Quiet. Routine. Safe. But Rachel didn't want safe today. She wanted truth. "Mom." Her voice was steady. More serious than usual. Her mother glanced over. Not surprised. As if she had been expecting this. "We need to talk." A pause. Then a quiet sigh. "I thought so." Rachel stepped closer. Holding the ring now. Not hiding it. Not pretending anymore. This, she said softly, lifting it slightly. Who gave it to you? Her mother looked at the ring, then away, her expression tightening. Why does it matter now? She asked quietly. Because I saw him, Rachel said. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Her mother's head snapped slightly toward her. What did you say? I saw him, Rachel repeated, her voice softer now, but certain. At the restaurant. A breath. He has the same ring. The spoon in her mother's hand slipped, clattering softly against the counter. For a moment, she didn't speak, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then slowly, very slowly, she sat down. Rachel's heart pounded, because she had never seen her like this before. Not shaken, not vulnerable, not afraid. What does he look like? Her mother asked quietly. Rachel hesitated, then described him. The suit, the posture, the eyes, the presence. With every word, her mother's expression changed, piece by piece, memory by memory, until finally, she closed her eyes. Peter. The name slipped out like a confession. Rachel froze. You know him. Her mother let out a slow breath, the kind that carries years of weight. I loved him, she said simply. And just like that, the world shifted. Flashback begins. A younger woman, laughing, running through the rain. Peter beside her. Not the man he is now, but softer, warmer, alive in a different way. You're going to forget me, she teased. Never, he said instantly. I don't forget things that matter. But life had other plans. Ambition, pressure, choices. I can't stay, Peter had said one night. His voice heavy, conflicted. This opportunity, it's everything. And what am I? She asked, her voice breaking. He didn't answer, because he didn't know how to choose both. So he chose neither, and walked away. Flashback ends. Rachel's chest tightened painfully. You're saying? She couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't want to. Her mother looked at her, eyes filled with something between regret and truth. He's your father. The impact. The words didn't explode. They didn't shatter loudly. They sank. Slowly. Deeply. Rachel stepped back. Her breathing uneven. Her thoughts scattered. No. She shook her head. That's not. I didn't tell him, her mother said quickly. I didn't want him to come back out of obligation. So you just kept it from him? Rachel's voice cracked. I protected you, her mother replied. From what? Rachel's voice rose now. From knowing who I am. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it wasn't calm. It was breaking. Across the city, Peter stood in his office, waiting, restless. His phone buzzed. Daniel. Yes. Sir. I found her. Peter's grip tightened instantly. Her full name is Rachel Ade and her mother. A pause. Is Elena. The name hit him like a shockwave. Because he knew it. Of course he did. He would never forget it. That's not possible, he whispered. There's more, sir, Daniel continued. Based on records timelines. Another pause. Careful. There's a high probability. Peter didn't breathe. That she's your daughter. Peter lowered the phone slowly, his entire world shifting beneath him. Rachel sat across the city, trying to process the same truth. 2 lives. 1 secret. Now finally uncovered. And neither of them was ready for what came next. Some truths don't destroy you immediately. They sit quietly in your chest. Heavy. Unfamiliar. Waiting for you to decide what to do with them. Rachel didn't go to work that morning. For the first time in years. She sat by the window, knees drawn slightly to her chest. The city moved outside as usual. Cars. Voices. Life continuing. But inside her, everything had stopped. He's your father. The words replayed again. And again. And again. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the chair. Why now? She whispered. Why after all these years? She wasn't crying. Not yet. Because the feeling wasn't just pain. It was confusion. It was disbelief. It was something else. A pull. She closed her eyes and saw his face. The way he looked at her. The way he said her name. Rachel. Her chest tightened. Because somehow, it made sense. And that terrified her. Peter hadn't slept. He stood in front of his mirror, tie undone, shirt slightly wrinkled. A rare sight. For a man who controlled everything. This was chaos. He splashed water on his face. Looked up again. You have a daughter. He said it out loud this time. Testing it. Hearing it. Trying to make it real. But it didn't feel real. It felt like punishment. She grew up without you. That part hit harder. Much harder. His hand gripped the edge of the sink. Tight. 23 years, he whispered. 23 years I wasn't there. A deep breath. Shaky. I didn't even know. But the excuse felt weak. Even to him. Because somewhere deep inside, he knew. Not the truth, but the possibility. And he chose not to look. Peter grabbed his coat. No hesitation this time. No denial. He was going to see her. Not as a stranger. Not as a customer. But as a man. Standing at the edge of everything he had lost. Rachel didn't plan to leave the house. But something pulled her. The same pull she didn't understand. She walked aimlessly. Through streets she knew by heart. But today, they felt different. Until she stopped. A small cafe. Quiet. Almost empty. And there, inside. Him. Peter. He looked up. At the exact same moment. Like something invisible had guided them both there. They froze. Not shocked. Not surprised. Just aware. Neither of them spoke at first. Rachel walked in slowly. Her heart pounding. Her steps careful. Can I sit? She asked softly. Peter nodded. Immediately. Please. She sat across from him. The space between them small. But heavy. Neither of them knew where to begin. Until Peter spoke. I know. The words were quiet. But they landed hard. Rachel's breath caught. You know? He nodded. Slowly. I should have known a long time ago. Silence. Then. Why didn't you? She asked. No anger. Not yet. Just a question. Raw. Honest. Peter exhaled slowly. Because I didn't want to face what I might find. The honesty surprised her. And now? She asked. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Now I don't have that choice anymore. The waiter came. Took their order. Left. Normal things happening. In a moment that was anything but normal. I didn't know about you, Peter said. I swear. Rachel nodded slightly. I believe you. And she did. Strangely. Instinctively. Because something inside her recognized the truth in his voice. But you still left, she said quietly. That one. Cut deeper. Peter's gaze dropped. I thought I was choosing a future, he said. I didn't realize I was leaving one behind. Rachel swallowed. Her eyes softening. Just slightly. My mom, she never hated you, she said. That made him look up instantly. She didn't. She was hurt, Rachel replied. But she never spoke about you like you were a bad man. Peter let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. For the first time, there was something like relief. A small smile slipped through Rachel's lips. Unexpected. You know, I always imagined my father differently. Peter raised an eyebrow slightly. Better, he asked. She shook her head. Closer. That word lingered. Because that's what this was about. Not perfection. Not wealth. Not status. Just closeness. I don't know how to do this, Peter admitted. Rachel nodded. Me neither. They both let out a small, quiet laugh. And just like that, something shifted. Not fully healed, not fully understood, but connected. They talked. Not about everything, not about the pain, but about small things. Her childhood, his work, her dreams, his regrets. And for a moment, it felt almost normal. Almost like they weren't strangers. Almost like time hadn't been lost. But beneath it all, they both knew. This was fragile. Because truth still had consequences. As they stood to leave, there was hesitation. I'll see you again? Peter asked. Rachel paused, then nodded. Yes. Simple, but powerful. Because it meant she wasn't walking away. Not yet. And as they parted ways, both carrying something new in their hearts, neither of them realized that this fragile connection was about to be tested in ways they weren't ready for. Some wounds don't heal quietly. They wait. They build. They hide beneath moments of peace until something triggers them. And then they explode. For a few days, things felt different. Peter found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. Slowing down. He canceled meetings, ignored calls, chose silence over noise. Because for the first time in decades, there was something more important than business. Her. Rachel. Meanwhile, Rachel returned to work. But she wasn't the same. She smiled. She laughed. She served customers like always. But now, there was something behind her eyes. Something searching. Something hoping. And that hope was dangerous. Peter stood in his office, staring at a small velvet box on his desk. Inside, a ring. Not the old one. Not the past. But something new. A gesture. A beginning. I need to see her, he said firmly, grabbing his coat. He didn't call. Didn't plan. He just went. Because some moments shouldn't be delayed. The restaurant was busier than usual that evening. Laughter louder. Lights brighter. Energy high. Rachel moved between tables quickly. Focused. Grounded. Until the door opened. And everything shifted. Peter walked in. Not quietly this time. Not unnoticed. People turned. Whispers started. Because this wasn't just a man anymore. This was power. Presence. Attention. And it all pointed at one person. Her. Rachel. The manager called, confused but respectful. He's asking for you. Her heart skipped. Then raced. She walked toward him slowly, trying to stay calm, trying to ignore the eyes watching them. Peter, she said softly. He smiled slightly, but there was tension in it. Urgency. I need to talk to you. Now, she asked, glancing around. Yes, now. They stepped aside. Near the back. Away from most people. But not all. Peter didn't wait. Didn't hesitate. I want you to leave this place, he said. Rachel blinked. Confused. What? You shouldn't be here, he continued. This job, this life. He gestured slightly. You deserve more. Her expression changed instantly. What are you saying? I can take care of you, he said. I should have been there from the beginning. Let me fix that now. Silence. Then. A small, disbelieving laugh escaped her lips. Fix it. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. You think this is something you can just fix? Peter frowned slightly. I'm trying to help. No, she cut in. You're trying to control it. The words hit harder than he expected. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Her voice rose now, drawing attention. You walk into my life after 23 years. Her eyes glistened now. And suddenly you get to decide what I deserve. Peter's jaw tightened. I'm your father. The words landed. Heavy. Sharp. Unforgiving. And now, Everyone nearby heard it. The room shifted. Whispers grew louder. Eyes turned. Rachel froze. Not because she didn't know, but because he said it like that. Out loud. In front of everyone. Without asking her. Without protecting her. Without understanding her. Tears filled her eyes. "Don't," she whispered. But it was too late. "You don't get to claim me like that," she said, her voice breaking. Peter's expression hardened slightly. "I'm not claiming you, I'm telling the truth." "And whose truth is that?" she shot back. The pain in her voice cut through the room. "Yours. Because mine doesn't feel like that." Silence. Then, "You left," she said. Simple, but devastating. "And now you come back, not even asking what I want." Her voice cracked completely now. "You just decide." Peter stepped closer, frustration rising. "I'm trying to make things right." "By replacing my life with yours?" she fired back. "That's not what I—" "You don't even know me," she shouted. That was it. That was the line. The one that shattered everything. Because it was true. Peter stopped. For the first time, he had no response. No control. No defense. Rachel wiped her tears quickly, trying to regain composure. But it was too late. The damage was done. "I don't need your money," she said quietly. "I don't need your protection." A pause. "And I don't need a father who only shows up when it's convenient." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Because they weren't shouted. They were spoken with truth. She stepped back. "I needed you years ago." And then, she turned and walked away. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. Whispers fading. Conversations resuming. But Peter didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't breathe properly. Because for the second time in his life, he had lost her. And this time, it was entirely his fault. Outside, Rachel walked fast, tears falling freely now. Inside, Peter stood frozen. Both of them asking the same question. Was this a mistake? Or was this their last chance ruined forever? Some moments don't shout. They don't demand attention. They arrive quietly, when everything is broken, when the noise is gone, when you are left alone with nothing but your thoughts. And in that silence, you are forced to answer one question. Will you protect your pride? Or fight for love? Rachel didn't stop walking. Not when she left the restaurant. Not when the streets blurred around her. Not even when her chest tightened from the weight of everything she felt. She only stopped when her legs couldn't carry her anymore. A quiet street. Dim lights. No crowd. No noise. And then, she broke. Tears came freely now. Uncontrolled. Unfiltered. "Why now?" she cried softly. "Why did he have to come now?" Her hands covered her face as her shoulders trembled. Because it wasn't just anger. It wasn't just pain. It was something much harder to admit. She wanted him. Not his money. Not his power. But him. A father. A presence. A connection she had imagined her whole life. Now standing in front of her. And slipping away again. She sank onto a nearby bench. Her breathing uneven. "He didn't even ask," she whispered. "He just decided." But even as she said it, her heart whispered something else. He didn't know how. And that truth made it harder to hate him. Peter didn't go back inside. He walked out, slowly, like a man carrying something heavy. The city lights didn't feel the same tonight. They weren't beautiful. They weren't impressive. They were empty. Because for the first time, success felt meaningless. He reached his car, opened the door, stopped, then closed it again. He couldn't leave. Not like this. Not again. He leaned against the car, his hand covering his face briefly. "She's right," he muttered. The words tasted bitter. I don't know her. A long pause. I never tried to. That truth hit harder than anything she said. Because it wasn't about absence anymore. It was about responsibility. And failure. A voice echoed in his mind. Soft. Familiar. Elena's voice. You don't get to love people halfway, Peter. He had ignored it back then. Chose ambition. Chose distance. And now, here he was again, standing at the same crossroad. Only this time, it wasn't about choosing between love and success. It was about choosing between fear and vulnerability. Rachel wiped her tears slowly, her breathing calming just slightly. Her mind replayed everything. His words, his tone, his mistake. But also, his eyes. The way they changed when he looked at her. The way he said her name. The way he stayed. He didn't walk away this time, she whispered. That mattered, more than she wanted to admit. Her heart softened, just a little. But he hurt me, she added quickly, as if reminding herself. And that mattered too. Across the city, Peter stood still, thinking, breaking, rebuilding. Then, he straightened, not like a CEO, not like a man in control, but like someone who had finally made a decision. I won't lose her again, he said quietly. And this time, there was no hesitation. Peter didn't call, didn't text. He searched. Because this wasn't something you fix with distance or convenience. This required presence, effort, humility. Meanwhile, Rachel sat alone, still on that bench, lost in thought, until she heard footsteps. Slow, careful, familiar. Her heart reacted before her mind could. She looked up. And there he was. Peter. Not standing tall, not distant, but different. Neither of them spoke immediately. The silence returned, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It was honest. I'm sorry. Peter spoke first. No defense, no explanation. Just truth. Rachel blinked, surprised. You're right, he continued. I didn't ask. A pause. I didn't listen. Another pause. And I hurt you. Rachel swallowed, her chest tightening again, but differently this time. Because this was new. I don't know how to be your father, he admitted. The vulnerability in his voice, unmistakable. But I want to learn. Silence. Then. If you let me. Rachel looked at him, really looked. Not at the man he was before, not at the mistake he made, but at the man standing in front of her now. Trying. Her heart and mind clashed. Pain versus hope, fear versus longing. You don't get to fix the past, she said softly. Peter nodded. I know. But, she continued, you can be part of what comes next. The words hung in the air. A door, half open. Waiting. Peter didn't rush, didn't push. He simply said, that's all I'm asking for. Rachel stood slowly. Took a step closer. Not fully closing the distance, but not walking away either. And in that moment, the choice was made. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Because sometimes, healing doesn't start with certainty. It starts with a step forward. Some endings don't arrive like fireworks. They don't explode. They don't announce themselves loudly. Instead, they unfold slowly, like dawn breaking after a long, painful night. Soft, uncertain, but real. And for the first time in a very long time, healing begins. Rachel didn't move immediately. Neither did Peter. They stood there in the quiet street, the city still alive around them. Cars passing, distant voices, the hum of life continuing as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Rachel's breath was uneven. Not from fear this time. From something softer. Something fragile. Hope. Peter watched her carefully, like someone afraid that even a small movement might break the moment. Finally, he spoke. Quietly. I don't want to rush you. Rachel nodded slowly. I know. A pause. Then. But I don't want to run anymore either. That sentence landed gently, but deeply. Peter exhaled, like he had been holding his breath for years. They walked together. Not close. Not far. Just together. The city lights reflected on wet pavement from earlier rain. Every step felt deliberate, careful, like they were learning a new language, one that didn't rely on words yet. You were always this quiet? Rachel asked suddenly. Peter almost smiled. Almost. No, he said. I used to talk too much when I was younger. A pause. Then life taught me silence. Rachel glanced at him. That sounds lonely. Peter didn't deny it. It was. Silence returned, but it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was shared. They stopped near a small bridge overlooking the city. Lights below shimmered like scattered stars. Rachel leaned slightly on the railing. Peter stood beside her, not invading her space, just present. I used to imagine you differently, she said softly. Peter turned slightly. How? She hesitated, then smiled faintly. I don't know, stronger maybe. Less confused. More perfect. A small laugh escaped her. But you're just human. That word hit Peter harder than expected. Human. Not CEO. Not failure. Not father. Just human. I don't know if that's good or bad, he admitted. It's real, she replied. And that's enough for me for now. A pause. Then. Peter nodded slowly. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he had to be anything else. Rachel's expression changed slightly. More serious now. There's something you should know. Peter looked at her fully, listening. My mother didn't tell you because she was afraid. Peter frowned slightly. Afraid of what? Of being abandoned again. Rachel said quietly. She didn't want you to come back out of guilt. A pause. Then softer. She wanted me to have peace, even if it meant not having you. Peter closed his eyes briefly. Pain flickered across his face. I didn't give her that peace, he whispered. Rachel shook her head. No. A pause. You didn't know how. That difference mattered. More than either of them realized. The next day, Peter stood outside a small apartment building. Still. Quiet. This wasn't business. This wasn't chance. This was accountability. Rachel stood beside him, watching him, not stopping him, not pushing him, just present. You don't have to do this alone, she said. Peter looked at her. A soft nod. I know. They went up together, step by step. The door opened. Elena stood there, older, wiser, but still carrying that familiar weight in her eyes. Time stopped. For everyone. Peter's voice was the first to break the silence. Elena. She looked at him. Long. Quiet. Then finally, you came. Not anger. Not shock. Just acceptance. Peter nodded. I should have come a long time ago. A pause. Then. I know, she replied softly. Rachel stepped forward slightly. Elena. Her mother looked at her. And smiled faintly. A mother's smile. Tired. Relieved. The conversation wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. Peter apologized. Not once. But properly. Without excuses. Without justification. Elena listened. Not interrupting. Not breaking. Rachel watched everything carefully. For the first time, seeing her mother not as a secret keeper, but as someone who survived something painful. I thought I was protecting her, Elena finally said, her voice trembling slightly. Peter nodded. And I thought I was choosing a future. A pause. We were both wrong. Silence. Then Elena exhaled. Maybe not wrong. Just afraid. That word softened everything. Afraid. Not cruel. Not intentional. Just human. Later that evening, the three of them sat together. Not as strangers. Not as enemies. But as something forming. Slowly. Carefully. Rachel looked between them. Then laughed softly. I feel like I've been missing from my own story. Peter looked at her. No, he said gently. You were the story I didn't know I was missing. That silence after his words was different. Not heavy, not painful, but full. Outside, the city was glowing, life continuing as always. But inside that small room, something had shifted permanently. Rachel stood near the window, Peter beside her, Elena seated behind them. 3 lives. Broken. Rebuilding. Rachel spoke softly. I don't want perfect. A pause. I just want real. Peter nodded. For the first time, I can give you that. She looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, she didn't see absence. She saw effort. That mattered more. Weeks later, things were not magically fixed. But they were healing. Slowly. Quietly. Honestly. Peter visited more often. Not as a CEO, but as a father learning how to exist in a role he never prepared for. Elena began to laugh again. Not fully free, but lighter. And Rachel? She no longer walked through life wondering who she was. She knew. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was finally true. One evening, Peter and Rachel stood outside again. Same city, different feeling. You know, Rachel said softly. I used to think I was missing something my whole life. Peter turned to her. And now? She smiled. Small, but real. Now I know I wasn't missing something. A pause. I was just waiting. Peter nodded. Quietly. Emotion in his eyes he no longer hid. Me too, he said. And for the first time in their story, there was no distance. No silence filled with fear. No truth waiting to destroy them. Only presence. Only connection. Only love at last. If this story touched your heart, backhand index pointing right, tell me in the comments. Can broken families truly heal after so many years? Or is forgiveness the real miracle? Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. Your time, your support, and your presence here mean more than words can say. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or kept you watching, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay blessed, stay strong, and keep believing in love. See you in the next story.